Hello, math students. Welcome back to Module 3, Expressions and Equations. This is Lesson 7, and it is called Properties of Inequalities. Our goal for today we will learn how to understand the properties of inequalities. And we talked a little bit about inequalities being the idea when a math sentence is not equal. That's what an inequality is, not equal. The question that I want you to think about in this lesson is, what do the lines under the less than and the greater than signs mean? Okay, so check it out. These are some things that you need to know. And I'm pretty sure this is a review, so hopefully it will go quick. When I say less than to you, this symbol should pop up in your head. And if you can't remember which one is which, there's this really cool thing. We have two hands on our body. And I have been telling you lately that our hands are math tools. And this is true when we're trying to figure out greater than and less than. This is my left hand. Always has been my left hand. I don't ever get to change it. It becomes my right hand. This is always my left hand. So when you're working with inequalities and you're kind of confused as to which one is which, the best way that I suggest that you choose to figure it out is hold up your left hand, tuck all your fingers down except for your first finger and your thumb, and automatically on your left hand, this L gets formed because this is your left hand. So does everybody see the L? Well, the other cool thing about your left hand is when you make the L, if you just turn it slightly, it becomes a less than sign. So less than looks like that. And that's how you can remember. So you always hold up your left hand, make an L, and that's the less than sign. And that's how you remember. So less than, the opposite of less than is greater than, and equal to. There's one other one that I want to add to this one, and that is this guy, because we talked about it already in class. That means not equal. It also is an inequality symbol. So that means not equal, inequality, okay? All right, these three symbols compare expressions also. We have less than, does everybody see the less than? But then there's a little line under it. Well, what that means is you're combining the less than sign and the equal sign. So we say, when we see a symbol that looks like that, it actually is called less than or equal to. Well, the same thing that can happen with greater than. So you have the greater than sign right there, and then a line underneath it. That means that this symbol is called greater than or equal to. So less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. And the reason why we have to have that is that sometimes an answer, if it has more than one answer in it, it can be any number that is equal to or less. So that's why we call it less than or equal to. The answer could also be any number, exactly that number, or more. And so we have to have these symbols because that includes all the values that it could be. Okay? These two symbols determine the value of the expressions. These three symbols compare the expressions. So these three compare them, and then these two determine the value of them. So what they actually are equal to. Okay? All right, so now let's do some try it. The try it problems look like this. If x equals -3, so in all of these practice problems, if x equals -3, you have to decide, is it less than, greater than, or equal to? That's your job, okay? So let's take a look at it. If x equals -3, then -3 is, what do we say? It is less than 5, okay? If x equals -3, -3 is greater than -8 because it's closer to 0. 27 is greater than -3. -3 is equal to -3. -3 is less than 10. -1 is greater than -3 because -1 is closer to 0. -3 plus 5. So I have three negatives, 1, 2, 3. Excuse me. I have three negatives because that's what x is. And then I add 5 positives to it. Plus, 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 plus. So those are 0 pairs, 0 pairs, 0 pair. What am I left with? So this is actually 2. So 2 is equal to 2. Do you see how we did that? That one was kind of crazy. So then we have 3 negatives because that's what x is, plus negative 3 because subtraction is the same as adding the opposite, so these are 3 more negatives. So we now have negative 6 is less than 1. And then we have 10 is, well, we have 3 negatives, do 3, plus 4 positives, 0 pair, 0 pair, 0 pair, that's a positive. 10 is greater than 1 positive. Okay, so it's kind of fun that we can figure out what these sentences would be based on if x was negative 3. Okay, notice we use the inequality symbols to figure that out. So now on this side, I would like you to look at something to notice. What happens if x equals 5 this time? Okay, so x equals 5 this time. So 5 times 3 is 15, and 15 is greater than 4. Okay, 12 is, well, x equals 5, so 5 times 2 is 10. 12 is greater than 10. Okay, if x equals negative 5, a negative times a positive is a negative times 3 is negative 15, so negative 15 is less than 4. And 12, negative 5, a negative times a positive is a negative, and 5 times 2 is 10, which is negative 10, so 12 is greater than negative 10. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. In this one, it changed the sign, whereas in this one, it stayed the same. So that's interesting. Okay, rules for inequalities. You have to know these rules, okay? So it's very, very important that you get these rules figured out and somehow get them memorized in your brain. When a number is added or subtracted to both numbers, the symbol stays the same and the inequality is preserved. When a number is added or subtracted to both numbers, the symbol stays the same. The symbol that they're talking about is greater than, less than, or equal to, stays the same, and the inequality is preserved. Preserved means that that inequality stays in the same direction. So if it was a less than and you add or subtract to both numbers, it's still going to be a less than. If it was a greater than and you add or subtract to both sides, then it's going to stay a greater than. But when you multiply or divide, it's a different story. So when a negative number is multiplied or divided by both numbers, the symbol changes, so the greater than or less than flips, and the inequality is reversed. So if you're multiplying by a negative, the symbol changes or flips, and the inequality is reversed. If you divide by a negative number, the symbol changes and the inequality is reversed. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. We will look a lot with that with practice, and I'll talk to you about it in class. One more thing. You use less than or equal to or greater than or equal to during comparisons that have more than one answer. For example, the money in my pocket is more than $1, but less than $10. So the money in my pocket is more than $1. So $1 is less than the money in my pocket, but it is less than $10, so 10 would be too much. So 10 is greater than what's in my pocket. So here's my pocket, right? And what the sentence just said about the money in my pocket is that the money has to be more than $1 because $1 is too small. $1 is less than my pocket, and $10 is more than my pocket. So the numbers that it has to be is it has to be the numbers in between. Look, this is how we can also look at it. The money in my pocket has to be more than $1, so it can't be $1. So it has to be above the dollar, right? It has to be above the dollar, but it has to be less than $10. Okay? So the money that's in my pocket has to be somewhere around in here. Okay, it has to be more than $1, but it has to be less than $10. Okay, everybody see it? Understand it? Okay, all right, so that's something else that you have to pay attention to when we're working on that. Okay, so lots of information, lots of fun stuff with inequalities. Today we will learn how to understand the properties of inequalities, which we just did. What do the lines under the less than and greater than signs mean? It means that the value could be equal to it. So less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Okay? That's all I have for you today. Talk to you soon. Bye.